The morning sun peeked through the tall glass windows of Sterling Enterprises, casting soft golden rays across the sleek marble floors of the lobby. The building stood tall in downtown Chicago, a symbol of innovation and progress. Employees streamed, in some with coffee cups in hand, others scrolling through their phones, all heading toward the elevators that would take them to their respective departments. Among them was Daniel Carter, a security guard who had been working at Sterling Enterprises for nearly 2 years. He sat behind the front desk, his posture relaxed but alert, watching as people passed by. Daniel wasn't someone who drew much attention. With his dark hair neatly trimmed and his uniform always pressed, he blended into the background like a shadow. Most employees barely noticed him beyond a quick nod or a mumbled, "Good morning." To them, he was just another part of the scenery, a quiet figure who opened doors and checked badges without making waves. Few knew anything about him beyond his name tag. Even fewer realized the depth of his abilities or the secrets he kept hidden beneath his calm exterior. On this particular morning, everything seemed routine. The hum of conversation filled the air as employees greeted one another, discussing weekend plans or the latest company updates. Daniel listened half-heartedly, his mind drifting elsewhere. It wasn't boredom. He rarely felt bored, but rather a habit of tuning out the noise around him. Instead, he focused on the small things, the rhythm of footsteps echoing through the lobby, the way sunlight danced across the polished surfaces, the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights above. These were details most people overlooked, but Daniel found comfort in noticing them. At exactly 8:15 a.m., his phone vibrated gently on the desk. Picking it up, he saw a notification from his sister, Maria. She lived in Spain and often called during her lunch break, knowing it would be early morning for him. Daniel smiled slightly before answering. "Hola, Maria," he said warmly, slipping effortlessly into Spanish. They exchanged pleasantries, catching up on family news and sharing stories about their days. When she mentioned a neighbor who had recently moved to France, Daniel switched gears mid-sentence, asking about the new arrival in fluent French. His tone remained casual, as though switching languages was no different than changing topics. Unbeknownst to Daniel, someone else was listening closely. Christopher Hayes, the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, had decided to grab a cup of coffee before diving into his packed schedule. As he walked through the lobby, his sharp blue eyes scanned the space out of habit. That's when he heard it. Cascade of words flowing smoothly from Daniel's mouth, each sentence carrying the distinct cadence of a different language. At first, Christopher assumed the security guard was simply talking to multiple people on separate calls. But as he paused near the desk, pretending to adjust his tie, he realized something astonishing. Daniel wasn't speaking to different individuals. He was conversing in multiple languages within a single conversation. Christopher froze, momentarily forgetting why he'd come downstairs in the first place. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Spanish gave way to French, then Mandarin, followed by Arabic, German, Russian, Japanese, Hindi, and finally Portuguese. Each transition was seamless, as natural as breathing. The sheer fluency left Christopher speechless. How could someone with such an incredible talent be working as a security guard? Why hadn't anyone noticed this before? For a moment, Christopher considered walking away. After all, eavesdropping wasn't exactly professional behavior. But curiosity got the better of him. He approached the desk cautiously, clearing his throat to get Daniel's attention. "Excuse me," he said, his voice steady despite his racing thoughts. Daniel looked up, startled to see the CEO standing there. "Yes, Mr. Hayes?" he asked politely, lowering his phone. "I couldn't help overhearing," Christopher began, gesturing vaguely toward the device in Daniel's hand. "Were you just speaking several different languages?" Daniel blinked, clearly caught off guard by the question. Yes, sir," he replied after a brief pause. "I was talking to my sister. She likes to practice foreign languages, too." "Foreign languages?" Christopher repeated, raising an eyebrow. "How many do you speak?" "Well," Daniel hesitated, looking down at his hands. "9, I guess." Christopher stared at him, dumbfounded. "9 languages fluently?" "Yes, sir," Daniel confirmed quietly. It's kind of a hobby of mine. A hobby? Christopher echoed, incredulous. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Most people struggle to master one additional language, let alone 9. Daniel shrugged modestly. I've always found languages interesting. Learning them helps me connect with people from different places. It's not really a big deal. Not a big deal? Christopher almost laughed at the understatement. This man was sitting here speaking 9 languages like it was nothing. While running a multinational corporation sometimes felt like navigating a linguistic minefield, how had someone with such extraordinary skills ended up as a security guard? Was it by choice, or had life simply led him down this path? Before Christopher could ask more questions, Daniel glanced at his watch and stood up. If you'll excuse me, sir, I need to check the perimeter now. Without waiting for a response, he walked away, leaving Christopher standing alone in the lobby. As the CEO watched Daniel disappear around the corner, his mind raced with possibilities. Here was someone with unparalleled potential, someone whose talents could revolutionize the way Sterling Enterprises operated on a global scale. Yet Daniel seemed completely unaware of his own value. Or perhaps he was aware but chose not to pursue opportunities that might disrupt his quiet, predictable life. Either way, Christopher knew one thing for certain. This discovery couldn't be ignored. Back at his desk, Daniel resumed his duties, oblivious to the storm of ideas brewing in Christopher's head. For him, the morning continued as usual, greeting visitors, monitoring surveillance cameras, and ensuring the safety of everyone in the building. But unbeknownst to him, his world was about to change forever. All because a curious CEO had stopped to listen. And so, the stage was set. What started as an ordinary day in the life of a security guard would soon spiral into something far greater. An unexpected journey fueled by hidden talents, untapped potential, and the power of recognition. Little did Daniel know, his ability to bridge cultures through language would soon open doors he never imagined possible. Document Part 2. Christopher Hayes couldn't stop thinking about what he had heard that morning. As he sat in his office staring out at the Chicago skyline, his mind kept replaying the sound of Daniel Carter's voice effortlessly switching between languages. It was like listening to a symphony, each language its own instrument blending together in perfect harmony. The more he thought about it, the more amazed he became. How could someone with such an extraordinary gift be working as a security guard? Why wasn't Daniel using his talents to do something bigger, something that truly reflected his abilities? Christopher wasn't the kind of CEO who only cared about numbers and profits. He believed in people, finding their strengths, nurturing their potential, and helping them grow. That's why Sterling Enterprises had become one of the most innovative companies in the tech industry. But even for him, discovering someone like Daniel felt like stumbling upon buried treasure. He knew he had to act quickly. If Daniel's skills were left unused, it would be a waste, not just for the company but for Daniel himself. The first step was gathering information. Christopher called Emily Dawson, the head of human resources, into his office. Emily was known for her sharp instincts and ability to spot talent. She walked in carrying a clipboard, ready to discuss the usual topics: employee performance reviews, hiring updates, or benefits packages. But when she saw the look on Christopher's face, she immediately sensed this meeting was different. "Emily," Christopher began without preamble, "do you know Daniel Carter from the security team?" Emily frowned slightly, trying to recall the name. "Daniel Carter. Oh yes, he's been with us for a couple of years now. Quiet guy, keeps to himself. Very dependable, though. Why do you ask?" Christopher leaned forward in his chair, his expression intense. "What if I told you he speaks 9 languages fluently?" Emily blinked, clearly taken aback. 9 languages? Are you serious? I overheard him this morning. Christopher explained. He was speaking Spanish, French, Mandarin, Arabic, German, Russian, Japanese, Hindi, and Portuguese, all in one conversation. And he switched between them so naturally, it was like second nature to him. Emily shook her head in disbelief. That's incredible. I had no idea he could do that. Honestly, I don't think anyone did. Exactly. Christopher said, tapping his desk for emphasis. And that's the problem. Someone with his abilities shouldn't be stuck behind a security desk. We need to find a way to bring his talents into the spotlight. Emily nodded, slowly, already beginning to see where this was going. You're thinking about moving him into a new role? Absolutely, Christopher replied. Think about it. Our international operations team is always struggling to communicate effectively with overseas clients and partners. Having someone like Daniel on board could make all the difference. His language skills alone are invaluable, but add in his cultural understanding and he becomes a game changer. Emily scribbled some notes on her clipboard, her mind racing with possibilities. Okay, let's set up a meeting with him tomorrow to discuss opportunities. Do you think he'd be open to it? I'm not sure, Christopher admitted. From what little I've seen, he seems humble almost to a fault. He might not even realize how special his skills are. But we have to try. If we can show him how much value he brings, maybe he'll consider making a change. The next day, Daniel received an email requesting his presence in a conference room on the executive floor. At first, he assumed it was some sort of routine check-in or training session. Security guards weren't exactly regular visitors to the upper levels of Sterling Enterprises, but he didn't think much of it. He arrived promptly, dressed in his uniform and carrying a small notebook in case he needed to jot anything down. When he entered the room, he was surprised to see both Christopher Hayes and Emily Dawson waiting for him. They greeted him warmly, gesturing for him to take a seat at the table. Daniel hesitated for a moment, feeling slightly out of place among the polished furniture and panoramic views of the city. This wasn't the kind of environment he was used to. Thank you for coming, Daniel. Christopher began, his tone friendly but professional. We wanted to talk to you about something important. Daniel nodded cautiously. Of course, sir. What's this about? Christopher exchanged a glance with Emily before continuing. Yesterday morning I happened to overhear you speaking multiple languages during a phone call. To say I was impressed would be an understatement. Daniel's cheeks flushed slightly and he shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Oh, that. It's really not a big deal. Just something I enjoy doing in my free time. It is a big deal, Emily interjected gently. Most people spend years studying just one additional language, and even then they rarely achieve fluency. You speak 9 languages effortlessly. That's an incredible skill. Daniel shrugged modestly. I guess I've always had a knack for picking things up quickly. My parents moved around a lot when I was younger, so I got used to learning new languages to fit in wherever we went. Christopher leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Daniel's. That explains how you developed your abilities, but it doesn't change the fact that you're sitting on a gold mine of potential. Have you ever considered putting those skills to use in a professional setting? Daniel blinked, caught off guard by the question. Not really, I've always liked my job here. It's steady work and I enjoy helping people feel safe. There's nothing wrong with that, Emily assured him. But imagine what you could accomplish if you applied your talents to something bigger. For example, our international relations department is constantly working with clients and partners from all over the world. Communication is key, and having someone like you on the team could make a huge impact. Daniel frowned, his brow furrowing as he processed what they were saying. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure I'm qualified for something like that. I've never worked in corporate roles before. That's why we're offering training and mentorship, Emily said quickly, sensing his hesitation. You wouldn't be thrown into the deep end. We'd help you every step of the way. Christopher chimed in, his voice earnest. And think about the opportunities you'd have. You could travel, meet people from different cultures, and play a crucial role in shaping global partnerships for the company. Doesn't that sound exciting? Daniel stared at the table, his mind swirling with doubts. On one hand, the idea of stepping outside his comfort zone was intimidating. He had spent years building a quiet, predictable life for himself. Change, even positive change, felt risky. On the other hand, he couldn't deny the appeal of using his skills for something meaningful. All his life, he had treated language learning as a personal hobby, something he did for fun. The thought of turning it into a career was both thrilling and terrifying. What if I fail? He asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Christopher leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Failure is part of growth, Daniel. Everyone makes mistakes, it's how we learn. But if you don't take this chance, you might regret it later. Think about it. You could inspire others to recognize their own hidden talents. Isn't that worth trying? Daniel looked up, meeting Christopher's gaze. There was sincerity in the CEO's eyes, a genuine belief in what he was saying. For the first time, Daniel allowed himself to entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. After a long pause, he nodded slowly. Okay, I'll give it a shot. As Daniel left the conference room, his heart was pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had agreed to take the leap, but the road ahead was uncertain. Would he be able to adapt to a new role? Could he live up to the expectations everyone seemed to have for him? These questions lingered in his mind as he returned to his post in the lobby. Meanwhile, Christopher and Emily watched him go, both feeling a sense of accomplishment. They had taken the first step toward unlocking Daniel's potential, and they were eager to see where it would lead. Little did they know, this decision would not only transform Daniel's life but also reshape the future of Sterling Enterprises in ways they couldn't yet predict. For now, though, the focus was on giving Daniel the tools and support he needed to succeed. The journey was just beginning, and already it promised to be extraordinary. Daniel Carter's life changed almost overnight, though it didn't feel that way at first. After agreeing to take on a new role in the International Relations Department, he found himself thrust into a whirlwind of preparation. Emily Dawson took charge of guiding him through the transition, setting up meetings, training sessions, and introductions to key team members. At first, Daniel felt overwhelmed. The world of corporate offices was so different from the quiet routine of his security desk. Everything moved faster, conversations were filled with jargon he didn't understand, and people seemed to expect him to know things he had never learned. But Emily was patient. She made sure to explain everything in simple terms and encouraged Daniel to ask questions whenever he felt lost. "You're not supposed to know all this right away," she told him during one of their early meetings. "That's why we're here to help you grow into the role." Daniel appreciated her support, but he still struggled with self-doubt. Every time someone praised his language skills or expressed excitement about his potential, he couldn't shake the feeling that they might be overestimating him. What if he couldn't keep up? What if he let everyone down? These thoughts weighed heavily on his mind, even as he tried to focus on learning. One of the first challenges Daniel faced was understanding the technical side of his new job. While his ability to speak multiple languages was impressive, communicating effectively in a business context required more than just fluency. He needed to learn how to write formal emails, draft contracts, and navigate complex negotiations. Emily assigned him a mentor named Rachel Miller, a seasoned professional in the international relations team who had years of experience working with overseas clients. Rachel was warm and approachable, which helped put Daniel at ease. During their first meeting, she handed him a stack of documents and smiled. "Don't worry, this isn't a test," she said. "It's just some examples of the kind of work we do. Take your time going through them and let me know if anything doesn't make sense." Daniel nodded gratefully. Over the next few weeks, Rachel walked him through the basics of international business communication. She taught him how to tailor his tone depending on the audience, whether it was a formal presentation for Japanese executives or a casual chat with partners in Brazil. She also showed him how to use translation software when dealing with less common languages, emphasizing that technology could be a valuable tool without replacing human intuition. At the same time, Daniel began attending workshops designed to improve his public speaking skills. Public speaking had always been a challenge for him. He preferred listening to others rather than being the center of attention. But now he realized he would need to step out of his comfort zone. The workshops were led by a trainer named Mark Lewis, who specialized in helping employees build confidence in front of audiences. Mark started each session with simple exercises, like asking participants to introduce themselves in front of the IA group. For Daniel, this was already nerve-wracking. When it was his turn, he stood awkwardly at the front of the room, clutching a water bottle for support. "Hi, I'm Daniel," he began hesitantly. "I used to work as a security guard and now I'm trying something new." To his surprise, the other participants clapped enthusiastically. Mark gave him an encouraging smile. "That wasn't so bad, was it?" he said. "The hardest part is getting started. Once you get used to speaking up, it becomes easier." Over time, Daniel grew more comfortable sharing his thoughts. Mark pushed him to practice using storytelling techniques, suggesting that personal anecdotes could help him connect with listeners. One day, Daniel decided to talk about his childhood, explaining how moving to different countries had sparked his love for languages. As he spoke, he noticed the room growing quieter, the audience hanging on to every word. When he finished, there was a moment of silence before applause erupted. For the first time, Daniel felt like he might actually belong in this new world. While Daniel worked hard to adapt, Christopher Hayes kept a close eye on his progress. He didn't want to overwhelm Daniel with constant check-ins, but he made sure to stop by occasionally to offer encouragement. During one such visit, Christopher found Daniel reviewing notes in a small conference room. "How's it going?" he asked casually, pulling up a chair. Daniel looked up, startled but pleased to see the CEO. "It's challenging," he admitted. "There's so much to learn and sometimes I feel like I'm falling behind." Christopher nodded sympathetically. "That's normal when you're stepping into a completely new role. But don't forget, you're doing something most people wouldn't dare to try. You're taking risks, and that's what makes you stand out." Daniel smiled faintly. "Thanks. That means a lot." As the weeks turned into months, Daniel slowly began to find his footing. His natural curiosity and quick thinking helped him pick up new concepts faster than expected. He discovered that his language skills weren't just useful for translating words, they allowed him to bridge cultural gaps in ways no one else could. Whether it was explaining local customs to American colleagues or helping foreign clients feel more at ease, Daniel became a vital link between Sterling Enterprises and its global partners. His coworkers quickly warmed to him, impressed by his humility and willingness to learn. They often sought his advice on matters involving international etiquette or communication strategies. One afternoon, a junior employee named Lisa approached him with a problem. "We're preparing for a video call with a German company tomorrow," she explained nervously. "I've heard they can be very direct, and I'm worried I'll say the wrong thing." Daniel thought for a moment before responding. "In Germany, being straightforward is seen as a sign of respect. Just be honest and clear in your communication and they'll appreciate it. If you're unsure about something, don't hesitate to ask questions. It shows you're taking their input seriously." Lisa thanked him profusely, and the next day she returned with good news. "The call went great," she exclaimed. "They loved our proposal, and I think following your advice really helped." Moments like these boosted Daniel's confidence. He started to realize that his contributions mattered, not just because of his language abilities, but because of the unique perspective he brought to the table. Slowly but surely, he began to see himself not as an outsider trying to fit in, but as a valued member of the team. By the end of his third month in the new role, Daniel had settled into a rhythm. He still faced challenges, of course. There were days when he doubted his abilities or felt frustrated by setbacks, but he no longer questioned whether he belonged. He had proven to himself that he could adapt and succeed, even in unfamiliar territory. Christopher noticed the change in Daniel's demeanor too. Gone was the hesitant man who had sat nervously in the conference room months earlier. In his place was someone who carried himself with quiet confidence, ready to tackle whatever came his way. It was exactly the transformation Christopher had hoped for, and more. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Christopher stopped by Daniel's desk to congratulate him on a recent success. "You've come a long way since we first talked," he said sincerely. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished." Daniel grinned, looking genuinely happy. "I couldn't have done it without everyone's support. Thank you for believing in me." Christopher shook his head. "It wasn't about belief, it was about seeing potential. And you've shown us all what's possible when someone takes a chance on themselves." As they parted ways, Daniel reflected on how far he had come, from a security guard speaking 9 languages in private to a key player in Sterling Enterprises' international operations. His journey had been nothing short of remarkable. Yet deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. There were still countless opportunities waiting to be explored, and Daniel was finally ready to embrace them. Daniel Carter's transformation didn't happen overnight, but as time went on, he began to settle into his new role with growing confidence. The initial doubts and fears that had plagued him slowly faded, replaced by a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer just the quiet security guard who blended into the background. He was now a vital part of Sterling Enterprises' international relations team. His ability to speak 9 languages fluently opened doors that others could only dream of, and his cultural insights proved invaluable in navigating complex negotiations. One of Daniel's first major assignments came when the company announced plans to expand its operations into Southeast Asia. A delegation from Thailand was scheduled to visit Chicago for a week-long series of meetings to discuss potential partnerships. The stakes were high. This deal could significantly boost Sterling Enterprises' presence in the region, but so were the challenges. Cultural differences, language barriers, and differing business practices all posed risks that needed careful management. Emily Dawson approached Daniel with the news. "We'd like you to take the lead on this project," she said during one of their regular check-ins. "You'll be responsible for ensuring smooth communication between our team and the Thai delegation." Daniel froze for a moment, his heart skipping a beat. "Me? Are you sure?" he asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "I've only been in this role for a few months. Shouldn't someone more experienced handle it?" Emily smiled reassuringly. "You're exactly the right person for this job. Your language skills and cultural awareness make you uniquely qualified. Plus, we'll have Rachel and the rest of the team supporting you every step of the way." Though still nervous, Daniel nodded. "Okay, I'll do my best." Over the next few weeks, Daniel threw himself into preparing for the delegation's visit. He spent hours researching Thai culture, learning about everything from traditional greetings to dining etiquette. He practiced speaking Thai, even though he already knew the language well, wanting to ensure his pronunciation was flawless. He also worked closely with Rachel Miller, who helped him draft agendas, prepare presentations, and anticipate any potential issues. The day finally arrived when the Thai delegation stepped off the plane at O'Hare International Airport. Daniel greeted them warmly, switching seamlessly into Thai as he introduced himself. "Welcome to Chicago," he said with a polite bow. "It's an honor to meet you." The visitors exchanged surprised glances before breaking into smiles. One of them, a senior executive named Mr. Ananda, stepped forward. "Your Thai is excellent," he remarked, clearly impressed. "Have you been to Thailand before?" "No, I haven't," Daniel replied honestly. "But I've always admired your country's rich history and culture." Mr. Ananda chuckled. "Well, perhaps you'll have the chance to visit someday. For now, thank you for making us feel welcome." As the week unfolded, Daniel played a crucial role in bridging the gap between the two teams. During formal meetings, he translated technical discussions with precision, ensuring both sides understood each other perfectly. In informal settings, he shared stories about his own experiences learning languages, which helped break the ice and build rapport. When misunderstandings arose, as they inevitably did, Daniel intervened diplomatically, smoothing over tensions with tact and patience. By the end of the visit, the delegation was thoroughly impressed. "You've made this process so much easier," Mr. Ananda told Daniel during their farewell dinner. "Your efforts will not be forgotten." When the partnership agreement was officially signed a month later, Christopher Hayes personally thanked Daniel for his contributions. "This deal wouldn't have happened without you," he said sincerely. "You've proven that your talents are worth their weight in gold." Despite these successes, Daniel still faced moments of self-doubt. There were days when the pressure felt overwhelming, especially when things didn't go according to plan. One such incident occurred during a video conference with a Japanese client. The meeting had been going smoothly until a miscommunication arose over contract terms. Both sides grew frustrated, and tensions escalated quickly. Daniel tried to mediate, explaining the situation in Japanese to clarify the misunderstanding. But the client remained upset, accusing Sterling Enterprises of being unprofessional. Feeling flustered, Daniel stumbled over his words, unable to calm the situation. By the time the call ended, everyone involved was visibly stressed. Later that evening, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, replaying the events in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had let the team down. Just as he was about to call Emily to apologize, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was Rachel. "Hey, don't be too hard on yourself. These things happen. Let's talk tomorrow." The next morning, Rachel met Daniel in the office cafeteria. Over coffee, she listened patiently as he recounted what had gone wrong. "I should have handled it better," he admitted. "If I hadn't messed up, maybe we could have saved the deal." Rachel shook her head firmly. "Stop blaming yourself. Miscommunications happen in every industry. It's not your fault. What matters is how you respond. Did you reach out to the client afterward?" Daniel hesitated. "Not yet. I wasn't sure what to say." "Then let's figure it out together," Rachel suggested. "A sincere apology can go a long way. And remember, you're not alone. We're all here to support you." With Rachel's guidance, Daniel drafted a thoughtful email to the client, apologizing for the confusion and offering solutions to address their concerns. To his relief, the client responded positively, thanking him for reaching out and agreeing to continue discussions. The experience taught Daniel an important lesson. Failure wasn't the end, it was an opportunity to grow. As Daniel gained more experience, he began to notice subtle changes within himself. He became bolder in expressing his ideas, no longer afraid to speak up in meetings or offer suggestions. His colleagues noticed the shift too, often praising his creativity and problem-solving skills. Even Christopher Hayes remarked on how much Daniel had grown since joining the international relations team. "You know," Christopher said one afternoon, "when I first heard you speaking those 9 languages, I knew you had potential. But seeing how far you've come, it's truly inspiring." Daniel smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you. I never imagined I'd be doing something like this. It's been life-changing." Christopher nodded. "That's the power of taking risks. You've shown everyone here, including yourself, that there are no limits to what you can achieve." Word of Daniel's achievements spread throughout the company, sparking conversations about hidden talents and untapped potential. Employees began looking at one another differently, wondering what skills or passions might lie beneath the surface. Some even approached Daniel for advice on pursuing their own dreams. One day, a young intern named Mia stopped by Daniel's desk. "Can I ask you something?" she said hesitantly. "How did you find the courage to make such a big change?" Daniel thought for a moment before answering. "Honestly, I didn't feel brave at first. I was scared, just like anyone would be. But sometimes you have to trust that people believe in you and then believe in yourself. If you're willing to take the first step, amazing things can happen." Mia smiled gratefully. "Thanks. That really helps." As Daniel watched her walk away, he realized how much his journey had impacted not only his own life, but also the lives of those around him. By embracing his talents and stepping outside his comfort zone, he had inspired others to do the same. By the end of the year, Daniel had become a cornerstone of Sterling Enterprises' global initiatives. His name was mentioned in boardroom discussions, his input sought after in strategic planning sessions, and his success celebrated at company-wide events. Yet despite his newfound prominence, Daniel remained humble, always quick to credit his colleagues and mentors for their support. Looking back, he marveled at how far he had come. From a quiet security guard whose greatest joy was practicing languages in private to a confident professional, shaping the future of an international corporation. It wasn't the path he had envisioned for himself, but it was one he wouldn't trade for anything. And deep down, Daniel knew this was just the beginning. With every challenge he faced and every opportunity he seized, he moved closer to fulfilling his true potential. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to embrace it, with courage, determination, and an unwavering belief in the power of possibility. The months flew by, and Daniel Carter's life continued to evolve in ways he could never have imagined. His role at Sterling Enterprises had grown beyond just being a translator or cultural liaison. He was now a trusted advisor, a problem solver, and a bridge between worlds. People from different departments sought his input on everything from marketing campaigns for foreign markets to resolving communication breakdowns during high-stakes negotiations. Daniel's presence in the company was no longer just appreciated. It was essential. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, casting golden hues across the city, Daniel sat at his desk reviewing notes for an upcoming trip to Europe. The company had assigned him to lead a project aimed at strengthening partnerships with key clients in Germany, France, and Spain. It was a massive responsibility, but one he felt ready to take on. For the first time, he wasn't nervous about stepping into the spotlight. Instead, he felt a quiet sense of excitement, a recognition that he was capable of rising to the occasion. As he packed up his things to head home, Christopher Hayes stopped by his office. "Still working late?" the CEO asked with a knowing smile. Daniel looked up and grinned. "Just making sure I'm prepared for next week. There's a lot riding on this trip." Christopher nodded approvingly. "I have no doubt you'll knock it out of the park. You've earned everyone's trust, Daniel, including your own." The comment lingered in Daniel's mind as he walked to the elevator. Trust. It was something he hadn't fully given himself when he first started this journey. But now, after months of hard work and countless challenges overcome, he finally believed in his abilities. He realized that growth wasn't just about learning new skills. It was about believing you deserved to be where you were. The European trip turned out to be a turning point in Daniel's career. In Germany, he facilitated discussions with executives who valued precision and efficiency. His ability to explain complex ideas clearly in their native language impressed them deeply. In France, he navigated delicate conversations with charm and diplomacy, earning praise for his understanding of French business etiquette. And in Spain, he connected with partners on a personal level, sharing stories about his own experiences with language and culture. By the end of the trip, Sterling Enterprises had secured 3 major deals that would expand its reach across the continent. When Daniel returned to Chicago, he was greeted like a hero. Colleagues lined up to congratulate him, and Emily Dawson even organized a small celebration in his honor. As he stood in front of the group holding a glass of sparkling water, Daniel felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. "I couldn't have done any of this without all of you," he said humbly. "This isn't just my success, it's ours. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the chance to grow." His words resonated with everyone in the room. Many employees saw Daniel's journey as proof that hidden talents, when recognized and nurtured, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Some began reflecting on their own untapped potential, wondering what they might achieve if given the opportunity. Inspired by Daniel's story, Christopher decided to launch an initiative called Discover Your Potential. The program encouraged employees to explore hobbies, interests, or skills they might not have considered relevant to their jobs. Workshops were organized to help people identify their strengths, and managers were trained to look for unconventional talents within their teams. The goal was simple: to create a workplace where everyone felt empowered to contribute in meaningful ways. Daniel became the unofficial face of the program. He often spoke at company events, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to embrace change. "You don't have to be perfect to start something new," he told a crowd of eager listeners during one presentation. "You just have to be willing to try. If I can go from being a security guard to leading international projects, then anyone can do amazing things if they're given the chance." His message struck a chord with many. Employees began volunteering for roles outside their usual responsibilities, experimenting with new ideas, and collaborating in ways they hadn't before. A graphic designer started teaching coding classes after hours, while a data analyst discovered a passion for public speaking. Slowly but surely, Sterling Enterprises transformed into a hub of innovation and creativity, fueled by the diverse talents of its workforce. Despite his growing fame within the company, Daniel remained grounded. He still made time for the little things that brought him joy: reading books in different languages, practicing obscure dialects, and mentoring interns who reminded him of his younger self. One of those interns, Mia, had blossomed under his guidance. She had initially been hesitant to pursue her dream of working in international relations, fearing she didn't have the right qualifications. But with Daniel's encouragement, she gained confidence and eventually landed a permanent position on the team. "Thank you for believing in me," Mia said one day as they worked together on a project. "I wouldn't be here without you." Daniel smiled warmly. "It's not about me. You did the hard work. All I did was remind you that you're capable of more than you think." As the year drew to a close, Sterling Enterprises held its annual gala to celebrate another successful period of growth. The event was filled with laughter, music, and speeches highlighting the company's achievements. When it came time to announce the Employee of the Year award, the room fell silent with anticipation. Christopher Hayes stepped onto the stage, holding an envelope. "This year's recipient is someone whose journey has inspired us all," he began, his voice ringing through the hall. "From humble beginnings as a security guard to becoming a driving force behind our global success, this individual has shown us the power of resilience, curiosity, and determination. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Daniel Carter." The audience erupted into applause as Daniel made his way to the stage, visibly moved. He accepted the trophy with trembling hands, then turned to face the crowd. "I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "When I first started at this company, I never dreamed I'd be standing here today. But thanks to the support of incredible people, my colleagues, my mentors, and especially Mr. Hayes, I've been able to discover parts of myself I didn't know existed." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that we all have untapped potential waiting to be uncovered. Don't be afraid to take risks, ask for help, or step outside your comfort zone. Because sometimes all it takes is one person believing in you to change your life forever." The room erupted into cheers once again, and Daniel stepped off the stage feeling lighter than ever. He knew his journey wasn't over. There were still challenges ahead, still lessons to learn, but he also knew he was ready for whatever came next. In the weeks following the gala, Daniel reflected on how far he had come, from the quiet security guard who blended into the background to the confident professional inspiring others to chase their dreams. His transformation had been nothing short of remarkable, yet he understood that true success wasn't measured by awards or accolades. It was about making a difference, however small, in the lives of those around you. As he walked through the lobby of Sterling Enterprises one morning, he noticed a young security guard sitting behind the front desk. The man looked up and greeted him with a shy smile. Daniel stopped for a moment, struck by a sudden memory of his own early days at the company. "Good morning," Daniel said warmly. "How's it going?" The guard shrugged. "It's okay, I guess. Just another day." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Well, you never know what opportunities might come your way. Keep an open mind, you might surprise yourself." With that, he continued on his way, leaving the guard to ponder his words. Little did Daniel know, his simple act of kindness might plant a seed of possibility in someone else's heart, just as Christopher Hayes had done for him all those months. So, the cycle of inspiration continued, proving that even the smallest gestures could spark monumental change. For Daniel Carter, the journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been rewarding beyond measure. He had found his place in the world, not because of luck, but because he had dared to believe in himself and seize the opportunities life presented. As he stepped into the elevator, Daniel smiled to himself. Whatever the future held, he was ready.